Hello, welcome to Stainless Steel 6.4 All Factions Starting Positions Overview. So what is this all about? This is a basic overview to give you a bit of an idea of what the campaign looks like. We're going to look at the early campaign today. I just wanted to show the factions available, what are the starting positions, how many regions they control, who is the faction leader, whether they have any standing armies or fleets, what about the agents, and then quickly to look at the financial situation as well. So let's have a look at the early era campaign together. And first, I think the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the pagan factions. So I'm going to split them into a religion. It's easier to kind of categorize them that way. So we have pagans, we have Muslim factions, we have Orthodox Christians, and we have Catholic Christians as well. So before I start, I'm going to put the difficulties or campaign difficulties in particular on hard. Now, why is that important? This will influence the amount of income your faction is making. So first of all, the Cumans. Cuman Khanate, it's a kind of a loose confederation, if you will, of these nomadic tribes in the northern Central Asia, and they also have these territories in Transylvania here on the western coast of the Black Sea. Okay, so the Cumans are a pagan faction. It's one of the only two pagan factions. It's also huge. It controls altogether 8 regions, 2 cities, and 6 castles. The capital city here is a place called Kazan. It's a large town. So who controls the faction? Faction is controlled by this Khan called Bonyak. In terms of standing armies or navies, they don't have any. All they've got are various garrisons. They start with 2 agents. There is a priest, a pagan priest that unfortunately gives a Muslim greeting, and there is a spy here as well. Now, in terms of their income, all factions, by the way, in stainless steel start with 10,000 florins in their war chest, with a couple of exceptions. We'll have a look at them later. Now, in terms of default income for this faction, you will have slight increase of about 200 and a bit, so barely breaking even. So that's all for the Cumans. Now let's move on next and look at the Lithuanians, who are another pagan faction. So here we are with the Lithuanians. It's a tiny one region faction, is one of the smallest in the game, and it's a pagan faction as well. It's a landlocked faction based here around northeastern Europe. So Lithuania has only one settlement, and this is a castle of Vilnius here, and the head of the faction is Grand Duke Butigeidis. It doesn't have any fleets, obviously, but it does have one standing army led by the faction heir. In terms of agents, we have 2. There is a spy, and there is a priest as well. In terms of finance, they start with 12,000. This is one of the exceptions, few exceptions in stainless steel early era campaign, when a faction starts with more than 10,000, which is a standard. However, they're losing money. They are one of the few factions that are actually losing money at the start of the game by default. So as you can see, they're losing over 1,000 florins on hard campaign difficulty. Now the next one we're going to look at is Orthodox Christian Orthodox factions. There are only few of them. There's slightly more of them in early era campaign than there are pagan factions. So we'll start with the Byzantine Empire. Now Byzantine Empire, also known as Eastern Roman Empire, is span across Greece and Asia Minor, and it controls some territories here in Crimea in the north as well. So Byzantine Empire is the largest empire in the early era campaign. It's it's an Orthodox Christian faction. It controls 15 regions, it controls 7 cities and 8 castles. So the capital city is obviously Constantinople, is a large city. In terms of faction leader, we have Basileus Alexius Kamnenas, who rules the faction at this stage. In terms of standing armies and navies, we do not have any standing armies, only the garrisons. But we do have a couple of navies, small navies. There is one in southern Peloponnesus, and there is one near Constantinople as well. Now, in terms of agents, they start with 3. There is a bishop, and there is a spy, and there is a merchant. Now, their income is standard. Their war chest is standard 10,000, and in terms of how much they generate, it's quite a sum. So they make a very, very substantial sum of money. The next Christian Orthodox faction in early campaign is called Republic of Novgorod. So it's based in Northern Europe, and it's one of the probably only democratic / oligarchic entities that ever existed in Russia. So let's have a look at it. So Novgorod starts with the capital city of Novgorod, obviously itself. There are 3 regions it controls, the whole city. It's a, historically speaking, wealthy kind of a commercial faction, commercial power. In terms of standing armies or navies, we've got 1 army in the field. We do not have any navies. The rest are just garrisons. In terms of agents, we start with 4. There are 2 princesses, a couple of them in Novgorod. There's also an Orthodox bishop, and there is a spy. Now, they start with 10,000, like most of the other factions do. And in terms of the income, they make quite a bit. Not as much as the Byzantine Empire, but quite a bit. They make, on hard campaigns and difficulty, they make over 2,000 florins per turn in default settings. Next Orthodox faction, and is a second Russian / Ukrainian faction, is a Grand Duchy of Kiev. Grand Duchy of Kiev is also based in Pontic Steppe here in Eastern Europe. So Grand Duchy of Kiev controls 4 regions. There are 2 cities and 2 castles. The capital is obviously Kiev itself. It's a large town. The faction leader, is Veliki Knyaz Vladimir. They don't have any navies. They don't have any starting armies either, only the garrisons. In terms of agents, there are 4. There's a spy, there is a bishop, there's a diplomat, and there is a princess as well. Now, financially, they start with 10,000 as well, and they're making a bit of a profit here, quite a healthy financial situation by default at the beginning of the early campaign. So what we've got in terms of Catholics here, we've got Republic of Venice. Let's have a look at it first. Republic of Venice is a maritime power. It's based in Northern Adriatic. Venice controls 2 regions. It controls Venice, obviously the capital city itself. Its faction leader is Doge Vitale. In terms of armies, there is 1 standing army,
Yes.
and there are 2 quite large navies as well. Now they've got 5 agents. There is a diplomat, there is a spy, obviously there is a merchant because it's a maritime trading power, there is a cardinal, and there is a princess as well. Income is 10,000 florins, but they don't make much of an income here on hard campaign difficulties. Less than 2,000 on default at the beginning of the early era campaign. Okay, the next Catholic power on an early era campaign is this landlocked Kingdom of Hungary. It occupies a Carpathian basin here, parts of Transylvania. Now, Kingdom of Hungary controls 4 regions. There are 2 cities and there are 2 castles. In fact, the capital is this castle Varad. Now, the faction leader is King Kalman. In terms of their standing armies, they do not have any. And they have a couple of agents, there's a spy, there's a cardinal as well. They also start with a substantial 10,000 florins, and they're making quite a handsome profit though. They have quite a healthy economic situation at the beginning of the early era campaign. Another Catholic faction is Kingdom of Sicily. It's based in parts of southern Italy and Sicily as well. Now, Kingdom of Sicily controls 3 regions, 2 cities and 1 castle. In fact, this castle is Palermo, is the capital of the faction. Faction leader is King Rogero, and they do not have any standing armies. However, they do have quite a large fleet. In terms of their agents, there are 3 available. There is a spy in Italy, there's a cardinal, and there is a princess. Now their financial situation is similar to most other factions. They start with 10,000 florins. They make a bit of a profit, so quite a healthy financial situation, but not overly so. They don't make a lot of money in the early campaign by default. Another Catholic faction that we're going to look at is Kingdom of Aragon. It's a small Catholic state here in Catalonia, northeastern corner of Iberian Peninsula. Now Aragon starts with two regions. They both cities. So the capital city is Zaragoza. Faction leader called King Pedro. They do have one standing army. However, they do not have any fleets. In terms of agents, there are 3 available. There's a spy, there is a diplomat, and there is a bishop as well. They also start with 10,000 florins, and their financial situation is not as great, but they do break even and make a bit of a profit on hard campaign difficulties with just under 1,000 florins generated by default. Next Catholic faction we're going to look at is Republic of Genoa. Genoa based in Liguria, and it also controls Corsica here. Now Genoa starts with 3 regions under its belt. So obviously it's the capital city itself, and it's a minor city. It's quite large actually. The faction leader is Doge Martino. They do not have any standing armies. However, they do have a couple of small fleets at their disposal. In terms of agents, we have 5. There's a diplomat, there's a spy, there is a merchant, as you would expect from a maritime trading power such as Genoa. There's a cardinal, and there is a princess. Now they also start with 10,000 florins, and they make almost 1,500 florins of profit at the beginning of the early era campaign. Now another Catholic faction, and this is the newest Catholic state in the world in 1100, at the time this early era campaign starts, is the Crusader states in Outremer. I have a playlist on Crusader states. Go and check it out. I'll probably put the link into the description. It's based on stainless steel, this exact version of the mod 6.4. So, Kingdom of Jerusalem, or the Crusader states as they called here, controls 3 regions at the beginning of the game. Obviously the Jerusalem, which is its capital. Now the faction leader is Lord Baldwin. It should be King Baldwin. So he's the head of the faction. They don't have any fleets. They do have, however, a standing army, and it's next to Accra here. In terms of agents, we've got 4. There's a spy, there's a diplomat. 1 diplomat is in Italy, by the way, so you can go and seal the alliance with all these Catholic factions, with the Pope himself if you so desire. And they have cardinal as well. They also start with 10,000. However, they're losing quite a considerable amount of money because their Crusader soldiers are very, very expensive to upkeep. So this is the faction that starts with the 10,000 like everyone else, but it loses the most amount. It gets the biggest hit. Is the unhealthiest financial situation in the game in the early era campaign. Now the next one up is Kingdom of Denmark. It's a Catholic faction based in Northern Europe. Now Denmark controls 3 regions. Its capital is Aarhus, and it's a large town. Now the faction leader is King Eric. They do not have any standing armies. However, they do have a tiny fleet here up north. They've also got several agents. There's a spy, there's a cardinal, there's a merchant, and they start with a princess too. Now they have 10,000 in their treasury, and they make it a bit of a profit, just under 2,000 florins in early era campaign by default. Next one up is Kingdom of Scotland, another Catholic power, and it's based in northern Britannia. Now Scotland controls 3 regions, 2 cities and 1 castle. Its capital is a large town of Edinburgh. Its faction leader called King Edgar. It doesn't have any standing navies or armies. It starts with 4 agents. There's a spy, diplomat, cardinal, and there's also princess available. Now the treasury it starts with is a standard 10,000 florins. It makes a little bit of a profit, just over 1,000 by default in the early era campaign. Next one up is Kingdom of France, a powerful Catholic state in Western Europe. Now France starts with 5 regions. There are 3 cities available and 2 castles. So the capital is obviously a large town of Paris. The faction leader is King Philip. Now France, in terms of standing armies and in terms of fleets, it doesn't have any. And it starts with 3 agents. There is a cardinal, there is a spy, and there is a princess. It also starts with 10,000, the standard war chest, but it makes quite a bit of a profit, just over 2,000 in the early era campaign by default. Next one up is the Holy Roman Empire, that famous empire that was allegedly neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. So this is the largest Catholic power. It's based in Central Europe. It controls bits of Italy, northern Italy as well. Now, Holy Roman Empire starts with 10 regions, 5 cities and 5 castles. Frankfurt is its capital, it's a large town, and it's the largest Catholic faction in the game, and it's led by Emperor Henry. Now, surprisingly enough, it does not have any standing armies nor navies. In terms of spies, there's only 2 available to it. There is a cardinal and there is a spy. Now, in terms of finance, this is the largest war chest or a treasury in the game with 20,000. So we've got quite a considerable income as well of just over 3,000 by default in early campaign era. Now, next one up is Kingdom of England, another strong Catholic power in northwestern Europe. Now, England controls 6 regions. The capital city is London, which starts as a large town. Faction leader is also King Henry. Now, it does not have any standing armies. However, it does start with a small fleet. In terms of agents, we've got 4 of them available. There is a cardinal, there is a spy, there is a merchant, and there is a diplomat. It starts with the standard 10,000, and we're making quite a substantial profit of just over 2,500 florins per turn in early era campaign. Now, another one to cover is Kingdom of Portugal. It's a very long list because, again, like I mentioned, Catholic powers, they are the biggest group in the game. So Kingdom of Portugal is the smallest Catholic faction. It only starts with 1 region, and it's based here on the Atlantic coast. So Portugal starts with only 1 region, and is this castle of Oporto. It's got 1 standing army, and it does not have any fleets. In terms of faction leader, it's King Enrique, and we've also got 3 agents that are available to them. There is a spy, there is a merchant, and there is a cardinal. Kingdom of Portugal starts with 10,000, but it barely breaks even because it only controls 1 settlement at the start of the early era campaign. Okay, another Catholic power is a landlocked Kingdom of Poland based in Eastern Europe. Now, Kingdom of Poland controls 3 regions. There are 2 cities and there is a castle. The capital is Krakow, which is a large town. Now, the faction leader is Senior Duke Vladislav. Now, Kingdom of Poland hasn't got any standing armies nor fleets. Obviously, it's a landlocked power like Hungary was. It starts with 3 agents. There is a spy available, there is a cardinal, and there is a diplomat. It also receives the standard 10,000 florins to work with, and it makes quite a considerable profit of just over 2,500 florins by default at the beginning of early era campaign. Now, another Catholic kingdom is Kingdom of Norway. This is the northernmost Catholic state. So Kingdom of Norway is based up in Scandinavia. It controls 2 regions. There is a castle, and it's also its capital called Bergen. Now, faction leader called King Magnus. In terms of starting standing navies and armies, there is a small fleet available to them, and there is also a small standing army. Now, it starts with 2 agents. There's a spy and there is a diplomat. It's got the standard 10,000 treasury, and it makes a little bit of a profit of just over 1,000 florins at the beginning of early era campaign. Another Catholic faction in Western Europe is Kingdom of Castile and Leon. Now this is the largest Catholic faction in the Iberian Peninsula. Now it starts with 3 regions, 2 cities, there's 1 castle as well. The capital is a large town of Leon. Now King Alfonso is our faction leader. In terms of standing armies or navies, we haven't got any. All we have are the garrisons. We have 3 agents, we have the cardinal, we have the diplomat, and there is a spy available. In terms of the income, we have the standard 10,000, and we're making 2,500 by default in early era campaign. Next group of factions to cover are the Muslim factions. So let's start with Almoravids as well. Since we've just been in Iberia, let's have a look at them. This is a faction that spans North Africa and southern Iberia. Now this faction starts with 9 regions. It's one of the largest factions in the game. It controls 6 cities and controls 3 castles. Cordoba is its capital and it's a minor city. We have this gentleman called Emir Yusuf. He controls the faction at the beginning of the game. In terms of the standing armies or navies, we do not have any. We have 3 agents. There is an imam, there's a spy, and there is a diplomat. Now we've got 10,000, the standard treasury, and we're making quite a bit of a income, so very healthy finances, making a lot of money, just under 5,500 florins. Another Muslim faction, and this is the largest faction, Muslim faction in the game, is the Seljuk Empire. So the Seljuk Empire controls 12 regions, 6 cities, 6 castles. Caesarea is its capital castle. The head of the faction is Sultan Berkiaruk. So the Seljuks do not have standing navies nor armies. They have 3 agents, there is an imam, there's a diplomat, and there is a spy available to them. They have 10,000 treasury. They barely break even, so quite a humble financial situation for the Seljuks. Another Muslim power, this is a Fatimid Caliphate, and it's based in Egypt. Fatimid Caliphate is based in Egypt again. Its capital city is Cairo, and it controls 7 regions. There are 4 cities and there are 3 castles. So it's Cairo, which is a minor city, and the faction leader is Caliph al-Mustali. In terms of starting navies and standing armies, we've got standing army up in Egypt. We do not have any navies, and in terms of agents, we've got 4. We have 2 imams, and we have a diplomat, and we've got a spy. Now we have 10,000 florins in our treasury, and we're making quite a bit of a profit with almost 5,000 generated by default every turn in early era campaign. Now the last remaining Muslim faction is Khwarezmian Empire, based in Central Asia. Now Khwarezm starts with 7 regions, 5 cities and 2 castles. Its capital city is Urkench. Now who controls the faction? We have Shah Kubdadin, who is the faction leader. It doesn't have any standing armies nor navies. It starts with plenty of agents, however. We've got an imam, we've got 2 spies available to us, we've got a diplomat, a merchant, and we have 1 more imam, which is near Iran, in Tehran area. We start with 10,000, and we're making quite a handsome profit here, just over 3,500 florins by default in early era campaign. So this is it. Thanks for sticking till the end. So we've covered all of the factions we've had in this mod. There are 24 playable factions in stainless steel. They all start neutral to one another. The enemies that they all share are the rebels. Again, the finance, it depends how much money you're going to make. Very much depends on the campaign difficulty level. Now, I will update this if there is a new update to the mod. This is 6.4. This is Gigantus's installer for Steam users. So it also includes the hotfixes for the 6.4. But if there is ever a new version, and if there is any interest in the community, I might do the new overview of every faction starting position. I might also consider doing late era campaign as well. Again, if you have interest in that, please do let me know in the comments and I will consider creating that as well. But thanks again for sticking with me. Please subscribe to the channel and take care.